Good evening, Demon Phil here with the DemoNation. I am here with another hell of a show, and we've got a hell of a guest here again tonight. We're going to give this just a moment, make sure you can see and hear me okay, and if we can get this shared out, please, as well, so we can get as many people in here. Hope everyone has had a great day and gotten a lot of stuff done out there, and we'll get this going here very shortly. Want to make sure we get a couple extra shares in here and get some people involved and see what's going on. Wendy, thank you for being here. Appreciate you being here tonight. And we're waiting to see. We've got quite a few people. They're starting to show up, actually. So we're going to have a full boat in here tonight, which is good. And just making sure everything is set up on my side. Again, if you'll let me know you can see and hear me, so I'm not just talking to the wall, because, I can talk to my wall all day long if I want to. Everything is set up over here. Looks like we're pretty good on the setup here. Give this about one more minute and we'll get started on this. Hope everyone's having a good time over there. Wendy, I appreciate it. Thank you much. Still wearing your mask, even though you don't want to, but still wearing your mask. Wash your damn hands. I mean, that should have been the normal thing in the first place anyway. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know why it's buffering. That may be YouTube. I've got YouTube on the side over here. It could possibly be you because it looks like on mine it's fairly clear. Hey, Dan, how's it going? All right, let's go ahead and make it official. So we are here with hell of a show again tonight. And to go ahead and get started on here, let's go ahead and start off with my sponsors because I do have a few of them that are on here and I am thankful for them because it's good to have sponsors. So we'll start off with Totally Rad Comics. Totally Rad Comics is Jim E. Noble. Normally he has Totally Rad Life of Violet or Totally Rad Adventures of Zero, which he just got done with. Right now he doesn't have anything going, but to my knowledge he has something coming out next month. Codex Entertainment, which is Luis Torres. Nothing going on right now with Lily the Demoness or with Ace and Starlet, but that should be changing next month, I believe, as well. He's got a new project. As I understand it, it's a whole new project that's not either one of those as well, so keep your eyes open on that. 183 Degree Studio, which is Kara Nicole, Alfred Trujillo. They are currently working on the calendar, which should be releasing, I was told, in the next week or two, possibly. So we'll be looking for that. And then the end of next month, hopefully we'll be seeing Fire Bitch 2, but I'll keep you posted on that as we go along. Then we have Naughty Fairies, which Wendy Steenshaner is already in here. That is her baby right there. Naughty Fairies had Naughty Fairies Stripper Assassins number 4 finished up on Kickstarter about a month or two ago now. Anxiously awaiting mine to come in and looking forward to that. So she also is a part of the Trinity here with the, you see this up here? Comic Unity. If you haven't heard about this yet, you haven't been paying attention to the shows because that is the Trinity of Wendy Steenshaner, CB Zane, and Tom Hutchison having an online con event that'll be starting this Saturday. Yes, you heard me right. This Saturday, the 12th. That'll be starting for 30 days. It'll be up there. You do not want to miss out on that. So definitely pay attention to that. Then we've got Third Empire. Third Empire finished up with Mojo Rising on Kickstarter. Did a great job on there. Right now they don't have anything going, but I know they're working on some content over there. So I'll let you know as I find out official dates that those will be released and what's going on with that. So stay informed with that. And one last one would be Nine Realms Publishing. Nine Realms Publishing has got Elysian Fields Pyramid Gambit, which will be releasing September 22nd on Indiegogo. But tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m., and yes, the demon is going to be getting up that early, so this ought to be fun. 10:30 a.m., I will have a special show with Michael Oden, who is the creator of Elysian Fields Pyramid Gambit, and we're going to have a Support Our Troops cover reveal, which is a huge thing because we've got a couple other people we're going to mention in there, including the artist involved in the Support Our Troops cover. So do not miss that. All right, that being said, we're good with all of this. Y'all have had enough time seeing me up here, so it's time to make it a little less, this and a little more of my guests. So here is David Whalen.
Hey Phil, how are you? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely. I was looking forward to having you on here since I had you on unscripted and you actually didn't run away screaming. So I think we're okay.
I did, but I did it after I turned off the camera.
That's what everyone pretty much usually does. Yes.
I gotta tell you too, every time I see your opening, I just start bopping my head up and down. I love it. It's awesome.
Oh yes, trust me. I am. I was thinking about trying to modify it, change it up a little bit, but after having, I mean, every guest does that. But I had Brian Polito just recently, and he told me straight up. He said, "Do not change it." I think I'm going to have to keep it now.
Keep it. It's awesome.
So before we get fully started into all this and everything, if anyone doesn't know who you are, I want you to take just a moment to say who you are, what you do, and where to find you.
Yeah, I'm David Whalen. I'm the owner, publisher at Correct Handed Comics. We publish comic books. I have a novel out also. You can find us on correcthandedcomics.com. And really, my goal is to put out great stories, great content, different kinds of genres, and try to make people enjoy and be entertained, but also think a little bit while you're reading some of our comics.
Absolutely, and it does too, because we're going to be talking about some of those subtleties in there. Because I don't give spoilers; everybody knows that. So we're going to kind of go over what would be the draw into getting into there. But first, we're going to start off with a few things, kind of get to know David just a little bit more. So the first thing I want to ask is, what were some of your favorite comics growing up?
I grew up reading in the late 70s, early 80s. What really started to get me into comic books was old Archie, Hanna-Barbera stuff, Mighty Mouse, stuff like that. As a little kid, I wasn't quite into the superheroes yet. As I got to be about 9, 10, 11 years old, I went down to my local 7-Eleven with my older brother. We would walk down there by ourselves, and I happened to see a Spider-Man comic. I said, "Oh, let me give this a shot." And from there on, there was not a superhero that I did not want to read. So, and from there, I just collected anything and everything I could get my hands on, read everything and anything I could get my hands on. In the 90s, loved all for better or for worse for the industry, loved all the long storylines that they had in the DC and Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And it just kept me going and kept me hooked. I loved it.
Very cool. I mean, it's always something that has an impact on you to go ahead and get you to start creating and start getting into all this. That's why I asked that question, to figure out where it all started, because it has to start from somewhere.
All right.
And that being said, my next question is, everybody has an origin story whenever they're in this industry and everything. What is your origin story in getting into the business?
I'd say mine's pretty similar to a lot of other people. I grew up realizing that I love to draw, loving comic books, loving anything sci-fi or superhero or story-based, really, movies, television. And as I grew and as I got older, my passion for art continued, and just kept through high school, through college, worked as a graphic designer for many years in my 20s. And in my 30s, went back to school to become a teacher. And as an elementary art teacher right now, I get to draw every single day with kids and hope that I continue their love for drawing, even as they get out of elementary school and into middle school and into high school. Because for some reason, a lot of adults think that once they become adults, they're not allowed to draw anymore, and they don't see the advantage of art. And I quite honestly, as a old man now, and in the 21st century, hope that and see that the arts are starting to become a little bit more on the forefront of education, of life in general, and people are starting to really understand the benefit of especially in education, the problem solving, critical thinking skills, the ability to be able to see and understand your world better is what art does. So I'd be lying if I said that the kids that I teach every single day don't keep me going, especially in my own art. They definitely do, and being able to tell stories that I want to read, that I think are imaginative, are fun, are thrilling, are exciting, are thought provoking, is definitely one of the things that keeps me going. Also,
Very cool. And that is huge, to go ahead and where you not only want to do your own stuff, but you're actually trying to mold those minds to let them know that, hey, you can take this and you can actually run with it. If it's something you love doing, then run with that and bring it out into the world. Especially if you really enjoy it, you put that much passion in there, then go ahead and take it and just run with it.
oh, yeah. one of the things as an art teacher I'm trying to do is to get kids to realize that there are lots of jobs in art out there. 20 years ago, if somebody said they want to be an artist, oh, well, you're going to have to be an art teacher because there are no other jobs out there, which was not true 20 years ago, not true 50 years ago. It's not true now. There are thousands of things that you could do as an artist to be able to continue adding to culture. Whether it's a fine artist and you want your stuff in museums, or you want to work at Disney to be able to make animation, or wherever to make animation, you want to work on comic books, you want to work in graphic design, you want to work on billboards on the side of the road. It's all, you want to work on t-shirt design. It's all art. There are thousands of jobs for artists out there, and unfortunately, I think a lot of, especially at a young age, artists, people who should have been artists, get squashed a little bit because they're like, oh, you're not going to make any money doing that, which is a bunch of poppycock, quite honestly.
That makes total sense on that. Absolutely, I agree with you on that. And it's it's sad because, like you kind of brought up earlier, it's kind of got a back burner in the past, and now with current conditions outside and everything like that, art is actually kind of getting the front running suit on there, which is nice. So it's a unique opportunity that art hasn't had in many years.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, especially for indie comics.
Yeah,
The big boys are putting were 6 months ago putting their pencils down. But as an indie comics creator, we saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as an opportunity to pick my pencil up and to get as much content out as I possibly could in those 6 months that I had. It was quite honestly very liberating. And I was still teaching online, so there was really some tough stuff going on to be able to kind of again weave in and out teaching and comic book art. But it was really a chance to be able to sit at your drawing table more. For me to sit at my drawing table more, to sit at my computer to write more, to be able to get more content out, or the content I was getting out faster, which was great. So as an indie comic creator, it was almost, I don't want to say it was a blessing because clearly it was not a blessing, but it was definitely a positive in all of the negative.
no, yeah, I agree with you on that. And I've seen more people come out of the woodworks and with some great ideas and some great products and everything. It's just a matter of going ahead and putting yourself out there and taking a chance.
Yeah.
And right now is the best time to take a chance on that because indies are doing amazingly well because they have a new level of respect because they never went pencils down. In fact, there was a lot more pencils that were added into the mix to go pencils up.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and it's great. The sheer numbers and the sheer diversity, it can make it hard for an indie creator to stand out. But the strength I think of indie comics is the sheer diversity in the stories, in the characters, in the creators. There's really nothing like it as far as diversity goes, and there's something for everybody. So there's no reason for anybody not to like something about indie comics.
That is absolutely true. So my next question would be, and I know this is kind of one of those questions where it's thrown out there. It's meant to get some interaction on there, so nobody start throwing tomatoes and everything from the audience. So because everybody brings tomatoes in the audience, and we all do this.
Yeah.
So my question is, how important is an online presence to you?
I think it's pretty important. I think being on all those social media, even though it can be hard, it can be difficult. Like I was saying, we were talking. It's almost a full-time job in and of itself. Having a social media presence takes up a lot of your time, takes up a lot of your day. But I think it's those interactions on whatever you're using: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok. My daughter loves TikTok. I'm like, this is great. I'm gonna put some stuff on TikTok, and it's got some views, and I've gained some fans from it, and it's actually pretty hilarious, and I love it. And the other pro to all this con stuff going on, this negative stuff going on in the world, is that creators are able to link up to people who not just create comic books, but want to talk with as many different creators as possible. So being on shows like yours and other shows that are around, and people wanting to start shows like this, and be on more shows and be more visible, can only help. More eyes is always better than less eyes. So the more you can get on any kind of social media, for better or worse in some cases, the better it'll be. What's the old adage is there's no such thing as bad publicity. I don't know if I 100% believe that,
Right.
but people saying your name is a good thing, and people saying the name of your books or whatever it is you're creating is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And in doing your social media presence and everything, you have your website. Now, first off, I have to ask before we start, because I'm going to do a screen share and we're going to show your website a little bit. The first thing I want to ask, though, where did you come up with the name Correct Handed Comics?
So I'm a southpaw. I'm a lefty. And as growing up, people would try to, like teachers, when I'm writing, especially, kindergarten, first, second grade, they would put your pencil in your right hand, and I'd move it over to the left hand, and they'd move it back over to the right hand, and I'd move it to the left hand. And I was just a stubborn kid, so I kept doing it. And they're just like, fine, whatever, just use whatever hand you want, just write the dang word. Luckily, it was able to stick. And as in my 20s, I worked at a lot of restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So I would be writing down the orders, and I would get at least 3 or 4 tables. And oh, you're a lefty. Oh, you're a southpaw. Oh, and people would start kind of making jokes about left-handed people. And I'd say, well, and I'd start saying things like, well, you're right-handed, I'm correct-handed. People get a big laugh. And just, 15, 20 years later, it just stuck in my head. I still make the joke today, and now it's my comic book company, Correct Handed Comics.
Very cool. And let me go ahead and bring the screen up on here so we can take a look at correcthandedcomics.com. There it is. So whenever you bring this up, of course, you got your 2 main titles on here, Offspring and Shady Lady, and we're going to be talking about them here briefly. But the website itself, I mean, it's set up very nicely, very smooth. I mean, it talks to you exactly where you need to go and everything, which is nice. And you can actually purchase these on Amazon. And can you purchase them directly on here as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, the links take you to everywhere I have the books. You can find links to it on Amazon, which is where actually I do most of my business, which I enjoy. I actually have books on Comixology and Lulu also, and there are links to all those things on the website.
And you've got, like, if we go into comics, it'll kind of show some of the different things you've got in here. And you've got, it's Offspring. What all comics do you have that you offer again?
Yeah, Offspring is our flagship title. It's the one that I started the company for. And then realized that I could make more comics for it as I went. We just published issue 13 of The Offspring, which I'm calling kind of our season finale of the first season, the first 13 issue run. It is, quite honestly, it's shaping up to be everything I want it to be. There's action adventure, there's characterization, there's humor, there's I think there's really everything for readers. There's drama. And it really, I think, has the characters, because of who they are and because of the hardships that I've created for these characters. I really think they show a different level of really how life can be the worst and life can be the best. These 3 characters, we meet them in issue 1 at their lowest point in their lives. And they are just struggling to survive. Will, the guy in the middle there, at the very top of The Offspring, he's the one that seems to have it the most together. And I wanted to show a character one of the main characters that looked like they had it together. But as we go through the run, we start to see the cracks. We start to see that he's kind of a duck on the pond, where it looks like he's got it together, but underneath the surface, he is struggling just as much as the other 2 characters are. And because these characters were physically and mentally abused as children, they actually developed these powers based off how they were abused. So they kind of grow up kind of gaining these powers and not really learning how to use these powers. And when they meet, they're taken away from their homes, their childhood homes, and they meet in an alternative school where they come to realize that they are not only bonded because they all 3 have powers, but because they just kind of keep running into each other and bumping into each other. They're like a beacon for each other. And then come to realize that they're not just a beacon for the trouble in their own lives with each other. They're a beacon for trouble in general. So they start to have these monsters evil things, things coming at them, and they're trying to, in the first 13 issues, kind of figure out why. So the first thing that 13 issues kind of answer the why they're a beacon for trouble. The next 14 issues is gonna be them trying to figure out how to control not just their powers, but this magnet they seem to have for all these problems, these monsters in trouble. Maybe it'll go well for them, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see.
And I've already I've got issue 1 that I looked at and everything, and it is definitely, it's one of those that you get a hold of, and it doesn't give you the full story, which is fine, but then it has that draw to it where it's like, I need more. I've got to figure out what's going on with this, especially the way, and I'm not giving any spoilers on this one, but I'm telling you the way that it is. I'm not going to say ended, because it doesn't end, of course, but the way that some things are put in there that don't have end zones are on there at all. It's very interesting. So it's something that once you get involved in it, yeah, I'm kind of hooked now.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely an ongoing story. I try to, at the end, give that hook. They'll say, oh, now I need to know what happens. Now I need to know what's going on. Hey, Bill Man X, thanks, man.
And what's the one that's underneath here? The Evolution?
Evolution Utero, that's my 4-issue miniseries. Okay. And I would say that's probably the closest thing I have right now to a superhero title. But when I set out to do a superhero title, I didn't just want to do Flights and Tights. I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I thought about it for a long time and thought, what can I show? How can I show a superhero that I've never seen a superhero as before? And I think it just kind of came to me. It actually came to me when my wife and I got pregnant for the first time. Obviously, I wasn't pregnant; my wife was, but I had hand in it. And I thought, oh, I've never seen a super fetus before. So I decided that a super fetus, if you have a super baby still growing in a belly, what kind of person would you want to have that fetus in? And I thought it would probably be a fun read to have this super fetus growing in the worst person in the world. So a person that is super selfish, does not care about anybody but herself, has no drive, has no ambition, has no goals in life. And it really is her story about how this pregnancy changes her. Anybody who's ever been a parent, the pregnancy changes you. The baby, being a father or mother, changes you, hopefully on a positive level. And it really is her story, the mother's story, about the choices that she makes. And there's fights, and there's car wrecks, and there's helicopters flying out of the sky, and there's, at the very end, I think, again, there's that hook at the end that just kind of keeps you coming to want to know more. I see Evolution Utero as kind of a 4-issue. It is a 4-issue miniseries, but I want to do the next 4 issues. It's going to be like my Back to the Future, where it continues the story, and it ends. The story wraps up in the first 4 issues, but it very much ends in the Doc flying in with a DeLorean and saying, Marty, you got to save your kids, kind of a situation. So it definitely does open up for more stories that I plan on telling in the future. But I think it's just a real interesting way to be able to look at superpowers in the real world, in people that probably should not have superpowers. And so it was a fun one to write, a fun one to draw. I can't wait to be able to continue the story with those characters.
Well, it sounds like with all of the focus being on The Boys season 2 on Amazon and everything, if you like The Boys and if you like the comics and everything with The Boys, it sounds like one of those that's along those lines. So it'd definitely be something that I'd be interested in looking into and seeing what it was about, because I like where it's no longer the cookie cutter superhero story set up on that. I think that's why so much of the draw is to The Boys with that. So if it has something along those lines, I can see where it can definitely get interesting.
Yeah, and I think on that one, I've got a really strong villain that we kind of get to know the characters to begin with, and really in the beginning, the main character, our protagonist, is the villain, is the bad guy. But as she starts to grow and change and hopefully make better choices, The villain starts to weave his way in there, and we really start to see how the choices she makes not only affects herself, not only her baby, but everybody around her. And really, in the end, it's that nurture versus nature. Are you going to make the right choice, even if it affects you negatively? And that's really what I wanted to explore with Evolution Anywhere.
Right. No, I mean I completely agree with that. Now you've got another one on here, The Loved Ones. What's that one about?
Yeah, the Loved Ones is the first one that I published with a writing partner. Actually, Brian Menard from Dojo Kun Comics. You can find him on Facebook. He's got a bunch of great superhero titles out. I wanted to put out a 100-page graphic novel, but I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and so I didn't want to write it. I was hoping to be able to find somebody perfect to be able to write the story, and Brian Menard was the first person I thought of. We'd worked together with some small press books, and we had just got to know each other, and he's a great writer. So I called him up with the concept, and he loved the concept. He came back like 3 days later with the script, very minimal changes to the script. I loved it. It was great. And what it is the children of classic movie monsters. So Wolfman, the Witch, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster. They are kidnapped, essentially, by a Van Helsing type monster hunter character. His name is Van Arx. And he raises these monster kids as his own. And once something happens to them, and they decide to go hunt for their parents. Some of them are hunting, some of them are trying to just find. And for some of the monster kids, it goes well. For others, it does not go well. And it was really that, again, that nurture versus nature question of these kids are monsters. They're going to do monster things. But they've also been brought up to protect other people and protect human beings. So how does that dichotomy work with monsters who are monsters, who are born and bred to do certain monster things, but also grow up to not hurt humanity, to not hurt human beings? And it's the struggle, I think, that these four characters have in the end, that really makes them really great characters, and really just really dichotomies of human beings in general, of that push and pull of the right thing, the wrong thing. I'm going to do what's right for me. It might not be right for you, but I got to do it anyway because I'm this way. And I think those Brian turned in a great script that I hope did justice through the visuals, that really shows the heart of these characters.
That sounds very interesting. I like the premise of it, and I like the storyline that's on that one. So that's definitely one that's got my attention as well. Now, Shady Lady, I actually read that one, and we were talking about that in the green room just prior to. Shady Lady is a very different style of comic than what you've had in some of the other ones that are on here. If you want to go ahead and talk about Shady Lady and let them know what's going on with that, and that's just a one shot and it's done, correct?
Yeah, it's actually the first of many one shots that I'm going to come out. I plan on getting 4 more one shots out before the end of the year. So Shady Lady came out in January. And it's very much my kind of like nod to noir thrillers of the 40s, 50s, 60s, kind of like Alfred Hitchcock type thrillers. I'm a big Frank Sinatra fan, and he had some of his earlier movies, the Lady in Wet Cement, The Detective, Suddenly. Those are great Frank Sinatra movies that I loved growing up, and was lucky enough to be able to see those kind of movies in my teens and 20s. And so I wanted to create a kind of noir thriller, but with very modern social issues and a very modern protagonist, female protagonist, that wasn't, again, that cookie cutter heroine. That was very much a real person who made good choices and made bad choices, was very gray. It's not black and white. Her morality is very gray. And I wanted to show some of the things that are going on in the world in the last couple years, that people would see as social injustices, or people would see and look at and hopefully know that what they were seeing was wrong and why. And once you read the story, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And then in the end, we come to realize why not. Again, no spoilers, of course. I want you to read and find the end. We find out why she's doing what she's doing. why the people that are chasing her are chasing her, and the end I think is not a very again not a very cookie cutter ending. I think it's something that'll kind of come out of left field, but it'll make sense to the story. It'll make sense to her, for her, and it opens her up to be able to continue her story.
Which again is very cool because the story itself, whenever I read it, and again, no spoilers on this, but there's a lot of there's a lot of smaller stories involved in that build up to the final story, which is technically another smaller story inside of a larger story. It's very difficult to explain.
Yeah.
And once you read it, you get so immersed into what's going on. It's like you go from one page to the very last page on there, and you have to go back going, what just happened? Where did that come from? Where? And I like those where I can get that twist in there, but it's also one of those that, without giving spoilers, she's righting some wrongs.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, because I don't want to go too much further into that one, and I know David does not either with this. But if you like something that'll kind of give you, it's not political, it's not, it doesn't have an agenda by any means. Don't think that. It's just a matter of humanity, basically.
Yeah.
So basic humanity. Sometimes you shouldn't turn a blind eye to certain things. Sometimes it doesn't take much to get involved into doing something. That doesn't mean you have to go beat somebody up because they're doing something, but sometimes it's the smaller things that can kind of help out with that.
Exactly.
It is
very much. I'm sorry. It is very much small vignettes that
Yes.
are weaved into a larger narrative.
Exactly. So it's one of those kind of stories. I recommend it simply because it's one that you don't see coming. It's a very subtle setup on there, but it's enough where it'll kind of get you thinking, and it's like, wow, humanity's actually not as bad as you think some days.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I really appreciate that. Shady Lady, like I said, is the first of our one shots. I have 4 more one shots planned and ready to go. Actually, the next one shot is supposed to come out right before Halloween, and it's probably again the most traditional. It actually has a superhero with capes and tights and all that stuff in it, called "I Won't Stop." But I think again it takes that superhero genre and spins it a little bit to be able to show superheroes from a different angle, an angle that maybe that I've never seen before. That I think shows the humanity side of the superheroes and the sheer weight of responsibility, if you have ever had that kind of responsibility on your shoulders. So the next one shot coming out is called "I Won't Stop," and I'm actually halfway through, give or take, halfway through it. And quite honestly, I love the way it's shaping up. I can't wait for people to see it. The cover is on our Facebook and Twitter page, and I'm super happy with the cover. I think it turned out really good, and I think the inside pages are turning out really well also. And then a bunch of other one shots coming out before the end of New Year's.
Very nice. And Luis Torres isn't here. Here, Luis.
Hi, Lewis.
So we've talked about some of the books that you've got on here and everything, and some of the stuff you're doing. You don't do the crowdfunding, so you go straight to the Amazon level or direct sales is what you're doing with that. What is your basic scenario for how you promote that? How do you market that to go ahead and get more knowledge out there about it? I mean, aside from being on shows like this, of course, but things like that.
Yeah, before all the craziness conventions, I would go and get some pretty good eyes on the book from conventions, and really, quite honestly, the word of mouth on my social media does pretty good for me. The Kickstarters and Indiegogos and things like that, crowdfunding, isn't something I'm against. I'm just a one-man band for the most part. I'm lucky enough to have a great colorist coming up, issue 13 of The Offspring. The cover was colored by a great colorist named Chris McAuley, who has worked with Marvel, Boom, worked with Disney, is working with William Shatner right now on one of his comic books. He called me up and said, I really like what you're doing. Saw Red Shady Lady, and said, let's do it. What do you got? So I said, what I would really love is to be able to have a full-time colorist on Offspring, to be able to maybe get the books out a little faster. I'm about a book every 2 months. I can finish a book in 2 months if I'm doing everything. And that's with a great editor whose name is Patrick Daniel, who does an excellent job for me, making sure all my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed. But with him as the colorist, I think I can go get him out a little bit faster, which is really good. I can't wait to see his colors on it. But the crowdfunding I do plan on doing probably in 2021 next year. Get one of the books on crowdfund because more eyes are better than less eyes. So to be able to get it on crowdfunder, even if I'm only asking $1,000 for it,
Right.
because I don't need to pay myself. The only thing it really costs me is time. But to be able to do a successful, even a small number of crowdfunder, I think would really benefit what I'm trying to do here.
Are you planning on doing trades or anything like that, or just keeping it strictly floppies?
Glad you asked. So issues 1 through 4 are already up on trade. So I've got the trades ready to go. Issue 1 through 4 of the Offspring. Issue 5 through 10 are already up and ready to go. Issues 11, 12, and 13 is our landslide storyline that, like I said, wraps up the whole first story arc for the first season of the Offspring. And I'm actually in the trade that I'm going to put out. I'm hoping before Thanksgiving, crossing my fingers in case nothing weird happens. And I'm actually going to put Shady Lady in that trade also. So it's going to be the 3 issues of Offspring and then the 1 shot of Shady Lady to be able to put that into a trade also. So by the end of this year, by Thanksgiving, I'm hoping volumes 1, 2 are already out there. Volume 3 of the Offspring along with Shady Lady will be ready to go right before Christmas.
That'd be great. I mean, that's some great Christmas gifts right there. And that way they can get caught up on everything you got going with it, because as I understand it, your story is not stopping at 13. You're actually going to continue going.
I'm going to keep going. I've got 50 issues planned. I've got the whole story ready to go. I've actually got more stories, but I think that 50 is a good number for an indie comic. I understand that a lot of people are hesitant to jump in and to go all in on an indie comic that is an ongoing. So I think that if I just keep going, I think I'll be able to get more people into to know that I'm not stopping until 50 issues. You're going to see the end of the story whether you like it or not. So I'm hoping that as I continue, the fan base just keeps on growing. I've got a bunch of great loyal fans that I'm really appreciative to, and not all of them have my last name, which I'm very happy for about that also. So I'm just hoping that the more books I put out, the more people start to recognize that I'm going to finish the story, and I think it's a good one to be able to tell and finish. So I'm just going to keep going, whether come hell or high water.
Well, I mean, the books themselves are gorgeous looking as just the floppies, and then you just showed the trades, and those are beautiful looking as you were flipping through there. They look nice, and the storyline is already there because, like I said, I'm already hooked on 1, and haven't even gotten all the way through this yet. So I'm gonna have to change that. I'm gonna have to fix that little problem there.
One of the great things I love about the Offspring and the way that I set it up is it's gonna kind of cross genres. So the first 4 issues are very much like a horror thriller. There's a very much horror base to it. As I continue growing on, it starts to kind of blend into horror sci-fi, into horror action, into more of a sci-fi. And as I get into the next season with issue 14, it's gonna mold again a little bit into something a little bit different. That horror, that action, that thriller, that aspect will always be there. But I want to keep just like growing that idea of blending and crossing those genres. So I'm super excited about it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's got plenty of opportunity and possibilities in it to go ahead and keep going all different directions.
Okay.
And it's already got momentum behind it right now. If you got more momentum to go ahead and push it even further, you could actually push out books at a faster rate to a degree and have more people get involved and really start building this universe, because you've got plenty of potential there.
Okay. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I don't want to give away too much of season 2, issue 14, but I will say, how can I put it? I still haven't quite gotten the tagline for it yet, so I'm still trying to figure out the elevator pitch for it. But the 3 main protagonists get caught in a time loop, and the first time loop happens in the Civil War. So with the 3 main characters that I have, you can imagine that there's going to be some turmoil. There's going to be some problems.
Right.
And I'm, like I said, I actually just wrote the issue 14 probably 2 or 3 days ago. My son and I were just sitting and talking and whatever, and I got to get going on issue 14. And I started writing it out, and within 15 minutes, talking to my son, I had it all written out. A little tweaks here and there I'm going to have to make, but I'm super happy with it, and I can't wait to get it out.
Very nice. Now, you had mentioned about going to the cons before and promoting some things, doing some things on there. So I always like to kind of ask every once in a while my guest, being the current circumstances, what they are and everything, go ahead and give me your favorite con memory that you've had.
I don't know if I have one particular memory. My biggest hope when I get to a con isn't selling a million books. It's making a connection with more people that love comic books, maybe not create comic books, but read comic books. And every single time I go to a con, whether I'm there as a fan or whether I'm there with a table, my whole goal is just to make connections with people. I have in the last really 4 years that I've done this, met people that I talk to on a weekly basis that I've met at comic book conventions. Some people that lived an hour away from me who I never would have met before, that create comic books, that have links to people that I know in my everyday life. So it's those connections really that is what I'm looking for when I go to a convention. If people buy a couple books, great, awesome. I am there to peddle my wares. But in the end, I think it's those connections that'll help grow what I'm trying to do here, rather than just saying, here, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. I think it has. It's given me an opportunity to meet a lot of people and learn from a lot of people, and to be able to help promote other people also, which I love doing. I wish I could do it every single day and just like and share every single thing I see. But sometimes it's hard to choose when and where you're going to do it.
Right.
But it's those connections at conventions that I'm looking for.
So you're talking about, helping other people and getting the names out there and things like that. So in doing so with that, and that's the best way to look at it whenever you go to a con, because that way the expectations are set to where it's a realistic expectation of you want to help others to go ahead and grow as well, and you're going to grow in the process as well. So my question to you would be, who would be somebody that you would like to work with on your bucket list, on your project, to bring in on this?
From indie comics or just in general?
Indie in general, however you want to play it.
That's a great question. There is. I'm going to plug a couple books here. There's some people that I've met at cons that I really enjoy reading their books. One of them right here. Let me make sure I get the one that looks the best here. Jim Whiting, Margot, Intergalactic Trash Collector. These books are great. I love them. And he's got a great style with his storytelling. The art is really good, really like cartoony, very like his panels, really crisp, and the story is really good. Great pages in there. The characters is awesome. So he's somebody that I've met through that I'd love to be able to do something with also. I'm going to plug a buddy of mine that actually went to high school with a friend of mine, and his Mike Myers, not that Mike Myers, Mike Myers, Fallstone. I think he's got a great premise to his book. It's a kind of like an X-Files type thing, but he's got a great premise to his book. The book looks good, lots of full color stuff going on. He's a good indie creator that is in the area up here where I am also. That we've actually talked about doing some stuff together that I would love to do. And really, quite honestly, like I said, the Dojo Kun Comics, Brian Menard is a great creator, and he's got a bunch of books. You can find him on Facebook. And really, anybody that comes to me with a story, I'm all in. I'm all in.
That's great. And that kind of brings up into my other question here, dropping off that is, if you had one piece of advice that you wanted to give to somebody to come into this industry and start getting into all this and everything, what would you tell them?
The first thing I would say is don't beat yourself up. You're doing okay. But to go at your pace, do what you can do, get your story out, and make sure it's the story that you want to tell. Don't worry about selling to the masses. That's a lot. I'm giving more than one thing, aren't I?
You're fine.
The one thing I try to remember is with any comic I create, and we've already said I cross genres a lot, and not all my comics are are in the same genre, which is really what I wanted to do when I set out to make this company, was to try to tell as many different stories as I could, not be locked in one genre. But the one thing I guess I would say is, when you put out your book and you love it, and you think you put out the best book you can put out, there's going to be problems. There's going to be issues. Remember that there are a lot of people that really like Star Wars, but there are a lot of people that really hate Star Wars. Just don't worry if somebody says that's not for them. You'll find the people that it's for. The people that it's for will find you, and your if you keep moving forward, your fan base will grow.
I completely
That's the advice that I would give.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. So does Chris on this one as well. I mean, that's
Thanks,
great
Chris.
advice on there. And it's one of those things where you have to kind of remember that you're not going to appeal to everybody on there, so you can't beat yourself up on there, because you can't please everyone.
No. Yeah, you shouldn't try. If you're trying to make something for everybody, then it's going to be for nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Make something you love. Make something that you would want to see. But that's at least what I try to do.
I completely agree on that. So we've kind of talked about a few of the things that you've got going with your business and everything. So tell us what's in the future for your company. We're talking about, just the stuff you've been talking about. Do you want to branch out and start doing cartoons? Do you want to start doing, live action stuff? I mean, what are you looking at?
Those all sound great, but I think I'm going to stick with with comics for now. I think that anybody in my situation has the picture in their brain of what the movie would look like, what the TV show would look like, what the cartoon would look like, and that would be amazing. But for now, I want to really focus on putting out the best comics that I can put out. Really, my goal is to get my long-term goal is always to make sure I'm pushing forward on the Offspring, but always making sure that I'm putting out other books and other stories that are stories that I want to tell. So what I'm doing, like I said, with issue 13 is the season finale of The Offspring. The next season will start in January with issue 14. In that time, I'm putting out nothing but one-shots. So I Won't Stop is going to come out in October. Before Thanksgiving, my plan is to have my next one-shot, which is I've got a title for it, but I think I can do better with the title. So I'm not going to say the title right now. But it's essentially a story of an alien invasion. The aliens target schools.
Okay.
And as a teacher, I'm walking through my classroom with a bunch of second graders, and I think, what would happen if aliens were to invade right now? What would I do? How would I handle that situation? So it's essentially a story about survival with one adult with 20 second graders trying to impede an alien invasion. And I think with that one, I've got a really good hook, a really good ending for it. And I think I've got a group of kids, because I've got it all written out already. I just have to draw it. I've got a group of kids that I think are really good for this kind of story. So that's coming out, hopefully, fingers crossed, barring any problems, before Thanksgiving. And then before New Year's, I have one more story coming out called the Sock Hop Killer. So for any of your younger crowd, sock hop is a dance from the 50s where the kids would take off their shoes, then they dance in their socks. So the character herself is very much my nod to Jason, Freddy, Michael from the old slasher flicks, because I love those old slasher horror flicks. And she, I think, has a great visual. My main character, the main character, is the Sock Hop Killer. And I think she's got a great visual. I think I've got a really good story. And I think that it's going to be something, again, totally different that's going to come out before the end of New Year's. Once 2021 hits, it's back into the Offspring, back getting of season 2 of the Offspring going, and some one-shots in there in 2021 sprinkled in.
It sounds like you've got a lot going on there. Definitely looking forward to seeing what all is going to be coming up with this. And you're going to be keeping all this on the online website. And of course, you'll be promoting it. You promote through Facebook as well?
I do. Facebook at Correct Handed Comics. Twitter, Correct correct_handed, Instagram correct_handed, and you can find everything on our website, correcthandedcomics.com.
Very nice. Now, before we go ahead and shut this down, because we've already had you up here for a while and everything, we've had a great time getting to know you and your stuff and all. And I know there's people out here who are interested in looking on your website a little bit more and trying to find out what you've got. Because I actually want to talk to you in the green room where we're done about a couple of things as well.
Okay.
So go ahead and give us a shout out, one last shout out on where we can find you on this, and then we'll go ahead and start shutting this thing down for tonight. But we've had a great one.
Yeah, you can find links to all my books at correcthandedcomics.com. There are links to the books there that go to Amazon and to Lulu and to Comixology. So you can, whatever platform you choose to buy it from, that's awesome. You can find me on Facebook at Correct Handed Comics, on Twitter and Instagram at correct_handed. I'm on TikTok also, so if you want to see some strange videos, I got a couple videos with my daughter up there also that I think are really funny, and that is under Correct Handed also. So usually if you just Google Correct Handed Comics, I'll pop up somewhere.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much for being here. We've enjoyed getting you up here and getting to know you a little bit more and about your products. And you have some amazing comics out there, and you've got a lot that's coming out in the future. So we're definitely looking forward to it and seeing what you've got available.
Thank you, Phil. Really appreciate you having me on again.
All right. I'll be back there in the green room shortly. Let me go ahead and do my closing statement. All right. So we had David Whalen up here. We had a great time getting to know him, see some of his stuff up there. And we got to know a little bit more about what he does and kind of the premise of what it is. It's hard to talk about his comics and not give spoilers on there, so we had to be very cryptic on there. I'm just going to let you know that they're good. They're really good. There's a couple of them that he mentioned that I wasn't even aware of that I'm going to talk to him about, but it is definitely something that whenever you get a hold of, it makes you kind of look twice going, that's what I needed at that point. So I always have a closing statement. Tonight's not any different. And I always try to do something based on the interview at hand. And I did that as well tonight. So tonight it is about going ahead and with your expectations. So the word is expectations. So a lot of times you have expectations, whether it be crowdfunding, whether it be convention, whether it be anything. I mean, there's a lot of things in life where you have expectations in there. If you set them too high and something happens, it drags you down quite a bit. So don't set them incredibly high. Don't be worried about somebody telling you it didn't work out or something's wrong. If you get knocked down, get back up. It's not about how many times or how hard you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. So that's definitely something you need to think about on that one, because I've had to think about it a lot, especially here recently. And I want to put out a big thank you to everyone. And you know exactly what I mean on that end. So thank you. On that end, you already know it takes one pebble. Throw it in a pond, you get a ripple. Enough people throw pebbles and rocks out there, you get the waves of change. So until next time, we're going to throw some more waves of change out there. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Yes, you get the wake up morning demon. Sorry about your luck on that one. I hope I have coffee at that time. But I will be here 10:30 in the morning online with Michael Oden, and we will have the cover reveal for the Support Our Troops for the Elysian Fields Pyramid Gambit cover. So do not miss that one. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I hope y'all have a great evening. Wash your damn hands, and I'll catch you on the next show. So until then, keep it into y'all.